Hello, guys. It's me again, Warren, Buildings from the Ground Up. Thanks again for having me, and thanks again for watching my channel. So, in today's episode, I wanted to speak to you briefly about budgeting. Budgets and how to create budgets and ask for increases in budgets is critically important to what a facilities manager or a director of facilities will do during the course of their career. And for those who are not familiar with budgeting, I'd just like to share a few things with you, especially for the young guys who are coming up, who are getting their certifications like we discussed in episode number 2, or you're going back to school, you're building up that resume, those kind of things. So this episode is for you. So primarily, I wanted to discuss briefly budget lines and that kind of thing, and the budgets that I was responsible for when I worked for the state, um, and when I worked for director of facilities for my local school district. First, I want to give a shout out to the New York State Facilities Association, the Nassau County chapter of the New York State School Facilities Association. Thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure being an active member, and I look forward to being a member as a retiree. For those of you who just are tuning in for the first time, my name is Warren. This is Buildings from the Ground Up, where we discuss all things buildings, residential, commercial, and as we discussed in episode number 2, from janitor to director, this is for you. So the first thing I wanted to discuss is when I was with the state, the Office of General Services, I was primarily responsible for creating a budget line for things that I'd like to see done uh, in the facility. For example, I undertook a sidewalk project. I undertook LED lighting in the stairwells, photoluminescence in the stairwells. So I created about 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 budget lines each year. And you created the project, you solicited bidders and vendors through what they call a RFP, a request for proposals. I submitted requests for that budget line. I submitted a justification with that request, and that's what I did each and every year. I love to ask for money because I was constantly trying to improve the facilities in one way or another. I tried to be proactive and not so much reactive. So during your inspections, your walkthroughs, your conversation with people and with tenants, you kind of find out what's going on, and you kind of find out what the building needs. You kind of find out what people, would like to see. And of course, you created that project based on that. Now, as director in a local school district, you are responsible for a lot more budget lines. So I had about, let's say, a dozen or two budget lines that I was responsible for. And so, if you don't mind, I'd like to just show you a few things on the screen. And so, this is what we are talking about as far as budget lines and being responsible for a budget line. So here, you could see that this is an appropriation sheet, right? And sheet is appropriated by function. So, for example, as the director of facilities, I had 2 functions that I was responsible for. One here is operations of plants, and also here maintenance of plants. So, this sheet is 3 pages long. You can see security is on here also, but I wasn't responsible for them. So what you would see from me is, again, and my functions include operations of plants is one, and my secondary function was maintenance of plants. So let's go line by line, and I would like to discuss a few things. So here are your building codes. So you can see this says 1620, but what you're going to be looking at is 1621, which is here. This is a running total of everything that you are asking for in the code or the function 1621. And along the bottom here, you're going to see a running total of everything that I asked for under this one budget line or this one function called maintenance of plants. Okay, so the first line here, remember 1621 2210900 is maintenance of plants. As we discussed, maintenance of plants, maintenance equipment. So I'm looking for my cursor right now. I don't know. There he is. There he is. All right. So, oh, I made a boo-boo. Let me just erase that for you so we can get back to where we were. All right. Let's see how you do that. All right. I'm taking my eraser and I'm getting rid of this red line because we don't need this. That was a boo-boo. I misplaced my cursor, which is very tiny because I'm drawing with a very fine line. Okay, so that's almost done. All right, so back to 1621. Here we are, 1621 2210900, which is maintenance of plants, maintenance equipment. So as you can see at the beginning of the fiscal year now, both the state of New York and your local school district fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 31st of every year. So at the beginning of the fiscal year, you see this one line, which is maintenance equipment, maintenance of plants, maintenance equipment. I had $45,000 to get us started during the course of the year. So you see that here. And why is my pen not working? Because it's still on eraser. That might help if I put it back. So as you can see here, we have $45,000 at the beginning of the fiscal year. So there were no adjustments made. So the adjustment budget is the same as my beginning budget because there were 0 adjustments made, as you can see here. During the course of the year, or at this particular time, it's still early in the year, the fiscal year, we hadn't expensed anything, meaning nothing was spent out of that budget line. And we had nothing encumbered, so we didn't create any purchase orders. For those of you who don't know what a purchase order is, I could speak to that topic on another day, or you could always email me and I could have a discussion with you about what a purchase order is. But whenever you're with a public entity, whether that's the school district, the state, your municipality, whenever you get a quote from someone, you have to create a purchase order in order to spend that money or pay that vendor most of the time. Sometimes you do have a credit card expense up to a certain limit. When I was with the state, I had a credit card for operations. But with the school districts, particularly my school district, I can't speak for all school districts, but they didn't have a credit card, so everything was done through purchase order. So if you had a cost, or you got a proposal from a vendor, you'd have to create a purchase order for that vendor. But as you can see, again, if you look at maintenance of plant or maintenance equipment, I started out with $45,000. I made no adjustments. So my balance is $45,000. My adjustment balance is the same. I didn't spend anything yet. Nothing was encumbered. So your available balance still to date would be $45,000. So that's pretty much how that goes. Okay, so now if you take this next one, I could duplicate that. So again, this is maintenance of plants. Maintenance of plants here. Right? That's this code, maintenance of plants 1621. So anything coming out of that is going to be start out with 1621. So if you take 1621 22309 0000, that's maintenance of plants, grounds, equipment. So my beginning budget and the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st, I have $40,000. We made no adjustments to that. So my adjusted balance is $40,000. My expensed amount of money to date was 0. That means we paid nothing out of that, but I did encumber or create a purchase order for $5,043.01. So you subtract that because that money was already taken out of that. It was encumbered, right? It wasn't expensed yet, meaning that work wasn't done yet, potentially, or we haven't been billed yet. So the balance is going to be available balance to me is going to be $34,956.99. So that's how that works. Okay. So now let's try to find one where an actual adjustment was made so I can give you an example. So if you look here at again, maintenance of plant, MOP, maintenance of plant is the function, and that's the code line 1621-437-09000. That's maintenance of plant, tree pruning, uh, and tree work, pruning and tree removal. I believe that, or tree work. I believe the rest of that was. But with that being said, at the beginning of the fiscal year, we asked for $65,000. Okay, we added on $9,953.25 because something obviously happened or something came up during the course of the year where we needed more funds available in that account. You know, maybe there was some extra tree work that happened that I didn't anticipate, a tree fell, that kind of thing. Anything could happen. So back to the budget. So we had to adjust it by $9,900, $53.25, $9,953.25, which would give us a grand total uh, for the fiscal year of $16,453.25. So nothing was expensed, meaning we weren't invoiced for anything, but that $9,953.25 was encumbered, meaning we had created a work order for that amount. I'm sorry, a purchase order for that amount, but it hadn't been billed to us yet or invoiced yet, or we didn't pay it yet, so it wasn't expense, but it was created, as you can see, and the remaining balance is $6,553. So that's how your budget line would work. You get your coding here, right? These are your codes, your specific codes for each line, right? And each code and each line represents a specific project or work that you'd like to see done. For example, grounds, equipment, workshops, and conferences, which I used to attend, and my custodial staff and head custodial staff, maintenance staff, groundskeeping staff as well. You see, you have pest control coming out of that. You have rental equipment coming out. You have asbestos safety. Of course, it was mandatory for my guys to take annual asbestos handling training or recertification. Of course, I was the asbestos inspector for the district, so I had to take training as well. And so that's what you have here. Let's just take one more example. So if you look at building repairs, maintenance of plant, 1621 462090000. So at the beginning of the fiscal year, we started out with $627,000. That's what I asked for. Now, this was increased from last year because I had anticipated some work. Um, it's important that you familiarize yourself with your Excel spreadsheets if possible, because that's the time that um, when your budget is due, that's the way, not the time, but that's the way your business official will submit that spreadsheet to you, your budget lines, and you either have to adjust those budget lines and justify those budget lines, the increase in those budget lines each fiscal year. And that's how you requisition or ask for more money based on your budget line. So, for example, if you look at building repairs, you see I asked for initially $627,000. But we sold the vehicle that was in the facilities department, my particular department. It was a new vehicle. We decided we couldn't use it, so we sold it for a pretty penny. As you can see, a lump sum, $79,293. There might have been maybe a lawnmower or two in there that I asked for after the fact. But as you can see, my initial request or my initial budget of $627,000 was adjusted by $79,000 plus, as you can see here, giving me a grand total now for that fiscal year of $706,293.10. So I was able to purchase that vehicle. Now that was a one-time request. So your initial budgets are not always going to go up unless you're looking for specific money to perform specific projects. This was a one-time request, so I'm anticipating or expecting that budget line to decrease unless something else comes up. So the next fiscal year, I'm looking at this. I wouldn't expect that to be $706,000 unless you ask for money for other things. So if not, that's going to decrease by $79,000 and back to $627,000. But I always ask for money because things always go up. Cost of living, consumer price index raises. So I usually ask typically for 5 to 10%. So that's what you have here. So if you look at the next line, which is expenses, we had already spent out of that line $250,000, and we had encumbered in addition to that. So encumbered meaning we created purchase orders of $257,291.18, and then we also had a odd requisition waiting for approval of $22,000. So that gives us a grand total available to us at this particular time of $175,409.32. So this is what your budget lines are going to be like. I hope this was helpful to you. I'm always available to go over any questions you may have. We can actually talk about one-on-one conversation. If they're looking for help, I could offer my services. Again, I created this channel to give back to the community. So I worked my way up from custodian and resident superintendent, again, to building superintendent, to director of facilities, and you too can do the same thing. So I hope you like this channel. I hope this was helpful to you, but this is a general overview of what your annual budgeting would look like. As a director of facilities, as a facilities manager, you will be responsible for submitting a budget. So when I went to the school district with all these lines that you see, now this is just one page. I'm responsible for another page as well, which I don't have here, but just on this one page, there are, I don't know, almost a dozen lines. So there's another page which I'm responsible for, as you can see here, operations of plants, which is 1620. I didn't pull up that page yet, maybe at another time, but here are the total numbers for 1620. It's $2,545,133. Here's all of your totals to date for operation of plants. So everything we went over today was maintenance of plants. So everything you see here was maintenance of plants, and the total budget for maintenance of plants was $1,444,130. All right, and as you can see, we made some adjustments to that of $183,935. to give us a grand total for that fiscal year of $1,626,065, $1,626,000, $55.18. And as you can see, at this particular time, we had expense 518,000 roughly, and we encumbered or created purchase orders for 528,000, blah blah blah, like that. So again, the name is Warren. Buildings from the ground up. I will be more than happy to help you. That's what I'm here for. So email me. All right, let's discuss your particular budgeting issue or your lack thereof. But the best thing you can do to be prepared for budgeting, first and foremost, is learn Excel, because that's how your budget's going to come to you from your business official, so you can make your adjustments on that Excel spreadsheet. It populates automatically, so you don't even have to worry about percentages. You just need to worry about dollar amounts. So, for example, if you had $100,000 and you needed, let's say, $10,000 for whatever the case, for painting of the facility, so you put in $10,000 and the adjustment will be automatically made in that spreadsheet, right? Also, your budget will include salaries if you're director of facilities, but you cannot adjust those salaries because that's something that the business office will do along with HR, human resources. So you will be able to see your department salaries, including your own, but you will be locked out more than likely of making adjustment to those salaries. Again, this is Warren. This is episode number 5, Simple Budgeting. 2 likes, 2 thumbs up, subscribe, whatever you do. It was my pleasure. I will see you on the next episode, episode number 6. So long.